Do you have an issue with UNC getting into the tourney?
Yeah, I do. 1-11 against Quad 1. Your resume is what your resume is. That's just the way it is. It's not like, well, who'd you play in your non-conference? Well, you play people in your non-conference. You've got to win some of those games. And then even in conference, you lose to Wake, you lose to Clemson, you lose to Pitt. Those are games you lose to Louisville. Now, they're good teams, but you got to find a way to win one of those games. But to me, to hear the committee talk about the strength of their non-conference schedule, it's not who you play. It's who you beat. You've got to beat teams in the field. They got one win against the field, the team that earned an at-large bid, that's UCLA, and they have an American win. And look, having said that, they're in the tournament now, and they're in the tournament, and they are good enough to win a game. They can beat San Diego State. They can give Ole Miss a tough game, but to me, they did not deserve to be in the tournament. I don't care that they can win a game because their resume says they are not worthy to be in the tournament.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely right. And by the way, as far as I'm concerned, the tournament don't start until you're in it. The final, I know it's 68 teams, but you know, one of those number 11 seeds going up against another 11 seed. That to me doesn't start the tournament. It's interesting. It's a part of March Madness. I love it. I'm not asking or advocating to eradicate it, but I don't want to hear that. In the end, they don't do it. Yo, Shannon, far be it from me. I don't mean to make y'all laugh, but some dude named Bubba has something to do with this. As in Bubba Cunningham, the selection, athletic director at North Carolina. You also the selection committee chair. I understand they don't speak to one another. I love how they don't. I love how we hear that all the time, fellas. They didn't talk to one another. I mean, he had to recuse himself. So in other words, all right, you had to recuse yourself from the meeting, but you had nothing to do. Y'all had no conversation when you went out to lunch. Had no conversation when you went out to dinner. Had no conversation when you went for a little walk, wherever you strolled around, okay? And you gonna pick this team that can't stop a damn cold. Now, the brothers can score. They got a high-powered offense. But, Shannon, let me throw this by you. This stat here before I throw it at you, my brother, all right? Forget their questionable rotations, them damn wide driving lanes that they allow for everybody. Forget all of that for a second. I mean, they rank number 282 in effective field goal percentage defense over the regular season's final month. They've allowed 39% on threes during that span. That's a ranking of 338 nationally. Yo, Shay, I know you said you had bad hips and all, or you got replaced hips. I got news for you. Against Carolina's defense, you could go out there and shoot some threes. I damn sure know I could with what they're talking about here. I mean, have you ever heard the word defense? North Carolina Tar Heels. This is a disgraceful thing. They should be in the NIT. They shouldn't be in the NCAA tournament. But you are right. They can win a game against another team in San Diego State that's lucky to be in the mix too.
Well, I might as well make it a three-peat because I agree with everything you guys said. And I've been a Tar Heel fan since 1981 when they lost in the national championship to Isaiah's team, the Indiana Hoosiers,
right,
led by Coach Bobby Knight. I agree with you guys. At the end of the day, I understand what North Carolina represents. And hell, Stephen, I didn't know they had 300 teams that play college basketball. So did they take Division II, Division III, and NAIA also? They got three. Coach Greenberg, they got 300 Division I-A basketball teams. I didn't know they had that many. Honestly. 360, wow. And that means they're in the three. But I agree with you guys. They did not earn the right. Forget deserving. You get what you earn, not what you deserve. They didn't earn the right to be in this tournament. I don't care nothing about can win a game. What does that got to do with it? First of all, you shouldn't be able to win a game because you shouldn't have been in the tournament to begin with for the simple fact you didn't earn the right to be there. And when you go up against, look at their strength of schedule. Well, they didn't beat nobody on that strength of schedule. What good is that to do me? Oh, man, they got some great stuff in Tiffany's. I ain't got no money to go in there and buy it, so what does that got to do with me? You didn't beat anybody on that strength of schedule. So your strength of schedule was good, but you didn't beat anybody on that schedule, so what does that say about you? And you're right, Coach Greenberg, yeah, they played some of these teams. A lot of these teams made the field. The Clemsons and the Louisvilles and the Dukes. But can you win 3 games? Can you win 4 games and not be 1-12 against quad ones?
Yeah.
That's not a good enough resume. Because at the end of the day, that's why they ask you to list your resume. And when they ask you to list your resume, they go by and check it. Like, okay, that's a good reference. That's a good reference. But, bro, their references, they aren't very good.
Are you taking an SEC team or the field to win it all?
I'm taking the SEC, and I'm taking the SEC real simply. They can get 3 teams in the Final Four. Florida's the most dominant team in college basketball in this moment in time. Florida is this year's UConn from the last 2 years. They have dominated their competition. They have an elite backcourt with shot makers and floor gamers. They got depth in their front court. I call them Noah's Ark. They got 2 of everything. But more importantly, it's the pace and the force that they play with. But it's not just Florida. You look at the depth of this league. Tennessee in their defense, and Zakai Ziegler and Jemai Mashak, the physicality that they play with. Alabama, how explosive they are up and down the floor. And the most dominant team early until maybe the last 2 weeks of the season was Auburn. Now, they got to get their stuff together a little bit. They lost a little bit of their chemistry, but Auburn with Janai Broome playing through him, he's a matchup problem. They could get 3 teams in the Final Four. And I understand you got Duke and you got Houston. I'll take the 4 teams that were played in the semifinals, in the SEC championship semifinals, those 4 teams against Duke and Houston, because that's, to me, the 6 best teams in college basketball.
Coach, I agree with you to a certain extent. I believe, look, you got 14, so they seems like they got 25% of the damn field that's in the tournament. But that being said, they could get 3 or 4 teams. They could get 3 teams to the Final Four. They also have 3 of those teams gone by the Sweet 16 because on a given, and that's why we love March Madness, because on a given Thursday or Friday or Saturday or Sunday, you can go home. And I agree with you. I'm looking at Auburn. I'm like, man, people keep telling me Auburn good. Let me watch them. And then every time I watch them, and maybe it's me, maybe I'm bringing them bad luck, because Coach Greenberg, every time I watch them, they get beat. And then I watch Tennessee, and then they get blown out. And then I watch Ole Miss, and I watch Alabama, and they get blown out. So I'm saying, well, damn, how good? Yes, they beat a lot of out-of-conference team, and I guess maybe they chop each other up when they play in conference. But I'm not sold. I'm gonna go with the field, Coach. I just got to take the field because I don't like what I see, and I don't really think there's a dominant team like we have UConn over the last couple of years. UConn was dominant going into the tournament, and you felt good if you
got to dig into Florida. You got to dig into Florida. You got to dig into Florida. You watch those dudes? Those dudes are just different. I mean, they are different. You remember when you watched UConn last year and how they just dominated the field? Florida has a shot of doing that.
Coach, I know you didn't just chime in and interrupt me before I was getting ready to bring my point, my man. I missed you, but damn, let me get a chance to get at you, Coach. Let me say this to you. Let me say this to you, Coach. I feel you on Florida. I tweeted out this past Saturday. I was like, yo, Florida's legit. Shay, I was like, yo, Florida's no joke. I just looked at them because I've been watching Alabama. I've seen Alabama against Kentucky this year. I've seen Alabama on several occasions. And I was like, damn, Alabama might have a national championship in basketball. And then they ran into Florida. And it just seemed next level. They didn't seem ready for Florida at all. You're right, Coach. They got 2 of everything. Florida's got size. But here's why I would say the field as opposed to the SEC. The bottom line is, if you say the SEC, then you're ruling out Duke. And I can't rule out Duke. I think Flag's going to be back, of course. You got Proctor and these brothers. I'm just looking at them and I'm saying, excuse me, Shai's doing a hell of a job. And you look at Duke right there and I say, Duke is a bona fide threat. Here's the other threat that I'm going to put. We are not going to have a conversation about basketball, about college basketball, without mentioning Rick Pitino, who's now taking his 6th program, 6, to the NCAA Tournament. You look at these brothers, they have, and I know shooting is a problem, which is why I think that ultimately, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, I got to look again, but I think they're in the same bracket as Florida. So I would have to pick Florida over St. John's if that were to happen, without question. But that's because Florida could also shoot the rock. That ain't St. John's strength. And I got that part. But my God, do they defend. And they got some brothers that can ball, okay? So I get that part. My issue, though, is this. St. John's hasn't had a single loss this year by more than 3 points. If I remember correctly, Coach. By more than 3 points. And I'm looking at them and I'm saying, yo, man, I can't sleep on them at all. So if I'm looking at those 2 teams, plus I'm paying attention to the other teams at the SEC, you're right about Auburn, Shannon, in terms of Bruce Pearl. I'm a huge fan of Bruce Pearl. You lose 3 of the last 4 games coming into the tournament. I mean, what the hell's going on? You know, you got bounced out last year in the first round. Y'all supposed to have attitude. Y'all go show. Auburn, what's up? What's up, Auburn? I mean, you going home early again, that's what y'all gonna do? Step your damn game up and handle your business. Y'all better than that, okay? But Duke And Florida and St. John's, I'm just looking at it and I'm saying the SEC is no joke, Coach. But I just gave you two teams in St. John's and Duke that I can't ignore. So I got to go with the field.
I won't interrupt you again, Stephen. I understand this is your show.
With you.
Make sure I behave myself. Houston's got to be in that conversation also. You talk about
Houston?
Rick Pitino.
Yeah.
I love
right.
everything St. John's is doing,
Sampson's
except the
great
white
as Houston.
suit's got to go, Stephen A.
Yes, I agree.
Stephen
I agree.
A. The white
I agree.
suit on Pitino's got to go. It's got to go. It's a bad look.
That's right.
Because
he's too white.
Because
he's too white.
It's
now,
Luke
if the white suit was on me,
come on.
if the white suit was
No.
on me, I think it'd be a little bit different. But the white suit on him, I mean,
Stephen A.
Well, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A.
kinda like a-
I'm from the South. I'm from the South, Molly. Hey, before Easter, no white. After Labor Day, no white. Now, y'all done started this trend, oh, you got winter whites, and we
Winter
got
white.
year-round whites. No, you don't.
You
You're
do.
not allowed to wear white before
white.
Easter, and after Labor Day, stop it.